my god, we gotta turn this off.
Oh, that's unfortunate. We're gonna be naked by the end of this video.
Welcome to my RedTube channel. It's so goddamn hot in here.
It's very warm in Ohio right now.
It's very warm in Ohio.
Oddly so.
Speaking of warm in Ohio.
Well, it was supposed to be like in the 60s and shit. And
this is how we're starting off the video. We're starting off the video by talking about the weather. This is how we know we're old.
And our bodies hurt.
Yeah. Man, my body fucking hurt today. I have no idea why. And between recording this and recording the video we did previously, I just had a full breakdown, and I don't know why. I think I just had too much bone-hurting juice, and couldn't deal. Bone-hurting juice, yeah.
Okay. Sounds like you need to drink some bone broth.
It's just bone-hurting juice is what I call Jose Cuervo. We're going to be reading Acrylic Trail Cameras. So I guess these are... I don't know what the acrylic denotes. It's like, a polymer that people use for painting. But, and they use it for other things as well. But trail cameras are just what you use for hunting to track animals. And they just are like motion censored and blah, blah, blah. Anyway. Acrylic trail cameras, they're white. And they are inactive in Pennsylvania. We're going to read the description. Acrylic trail cameras are the most common colloquialism in the society for a series of antique picture frames with a useful, highly aberrational remote viewing ability.
Okay.
Alright, that's why they're called that. Okay. So they're using like modern lexicon to describe like an old-timey aberrational thing, like supernatural thing.
Right.
Simpler English, they're used to monitor an area with no trace of video equipment or anything like that. If an aberrant is too smart for standard trail cameras, these things have no physical presence to warn an aberration. Useful for everything from tracking a target for an ambush down the valley to having an IED ready to manually trigger. Okay, so they're using these things to like set up bombs and track aberrations that are too smart to be filmed. That's really cool.
It is.
So it's just like a magic picture frame.
That watches you.
That watches whatever you want to watch. We'll find out however this functions, because there's got to be some limitation to that, because that's really powerful.
Right.
For them to have that as a tool.
Physically, these are lovely antique picture frames. Made of metal, enamel decorations. They come in different styles, but all have the initials EH on the back side of the lower edge.
I really hope that these things are tacky as hell.
Yeah.
What if they're like super kitschy? It's like, we made this out of turquoise and shells that we found at the beach when we went to Myrtle Beach.
When we went to Myrtle Beach. There's also some macaroni art on the sides.
There's just macaroni art. It's just some aberrational kid who made these.
Yes.
These frames are totally useless without a very specific media. You must paint a scene with nearly absolute accuracy to an actual real-life perspective.
Oh.
So you gotta Bob Ross.
You gotta have like
bitch.
a really high skill level to use these.
To be fair, you have to have a really high skill. Is that the joke you're making?
Yeah.
You're making a Rick and Morty joke? Or
I was thinking more like video game.
Oh, you gotta be a pretty...
Yeah.
To be fair, I'm a pretty hardcore gamer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And slot it into the frame while the painting and its real perspective are still the same. Do it right and the painting will be coupled with the real perspective and will update continuously, showing the perspectives as if there was a CCTV camera there. Trees will blow in the wind. People or creatures passing into the view will be rendered in the same quality and detail of the original painting, potentially with colors that weren't in the original painting.
Huh. So if you did it in the style of like Van Gogh, it would be like a Van Gogh security camera.
I love how you're saying it like De Bruin from Pacific Heat. It's time to Van Gogh.
Oh, it's such a good show.
No one will ever watch it. I can't convince anyone.
No.
Except for Travis and you. That's it.
It's good. Guys, go watch it. It's on Netflix. It'll never get a season 2.
It'll never get a season 2.
I want to make it clear that these frames are only as useful as the quality of the original painting. The big limiting factor for the utility of this artifact is the relationship between image quality and actual coupling the damn things.
This is great because I was like, man, this is really powerful. This has to have like a cool like a big drawback. And not only do they have a big drawback, they have an interesting drawback.
Right.
That is like a great turn. It's a well-designed Team Fortress 2 weapon. Like, you know,
right.
It's like you got an energy drink that lets you dodge bullets, but you're slow after you have it because you have a caffeine crash.
Right.
Like, this is a good... Yes.
Finely detailed paintings are hard to get sufficiently accurate, especially in a forest. Easier to couple with a vague painting, which is okay if you're only trying to track an aberrant's location, but not okay if the whole point is to find out what it looks like.
Okay.
A fuzzy watercolor splotch isn't useful for retcon or figuring out... Recon.
If you're wondering where Chelsea falls on the...
ability to speak.
On the...
I add random letters. I know what I'm reading. My mouth.
If you want to know where she falls on the literary to hunter scale, literary to war scale, she falls on the reading the word recon as retcon side of it. Just throw a T in there.
Yeah, or figuring out which head you should aim for.
You need a skilled, fast painter to make these things useful in the field. I'd like to believe that Bob Ross was a warder, like a very high-level warder who hunted down these aberrations.
Yeah.
If you can, he was a soldier, so it makes sense. Might be a good idea for an outfit. And he was a nature oh my god, Bob Ross 100% confirmed for high-level warder. Good idea for pulling an outfits artist to not also be a trigger puller. You should know, and he was very pacifist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I was an art student when a warder outfit in the area got their warrior painter banged up by an aberration. Brother knew an uncle, knew a friend, and I've been painting for those guys ever since. Saved me from unemployment.
Yeah.
Huh.
Man, hire me. I can do that.
That's a question I have now, though. Does the organization pay?
Sounds like it.
Or
is it like in Good Omens, where they're just like, yeah, you know, the what is it, Witch Hunting Society, it only pays like 1 pence based on a 1700s contract.
Yeah, that's why you gotta be careful when you're signing your Scientology contract for the Sea Org.
Yeah.
Because you're locked in there at that fixed rate. But that is the question, because I thought these guys were like volunteers that just like are taking up the mantle of being a warder for the sake of humanity.
Maybe it's like the Conservation Corps?
So you just like...
Where you get paid like very minimal, but like they pay off part of your student loan and you get free food and board for like a year or two.
Maybe.
As long as you go like clear trees from trails and build stuff.
Possible.
Yeah. Anyway, this is getting long, so I'll save some specific tips and uses of these frames down in the notes below. Also, photographs don't work. You're not clever for being the 1000th guy to try suggesting that. If a guy in your outfit is sitting in the middle of the forest with an easel and a canvas, leave him alone and don't step on the leaves in front of him.
Behind him. Yeah, background. As far as I've heard, all of these frames are the hard work of a single master craftsman, Mr. E. Halverson, Mr. E. Halverson, a Norwegian fellow.
Zoom tight. That sounded like a horse sneezing.
Norwegian fellow who lived in the mid-1800s. For a bit more detail, I'm going to hand this over to the Data Collection Center crew of New Haven, Connecticut. What does that say?
I know, therefore I act.
It's supposed to say, message from the New Haven DCC.
I already clicked.
And then it says, I know, therefore I act. Yes! So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Halverson hailed from New Haven, so this is a welcome break from constant sea business. Harpoons and garage depth charges get old after a while. And we're rather proud of these frames. Proud of the craftsmanship, too, but we don't know much about him. Immigrant from Norway, just about when detailed enamel work with frames was really maturing in Europe. A buddy of mine in the Cambridge circles over in England. London is in England, but not referring to all of England areas.
It's like all rectangles are all squares are rectangles, but not all
Squares are...
But not all squares read.
Yeah. And not all rectangles talk well.
It's like all of this Norwegian fellow's frames are squares, but not all of his squares are nature.
Yeah. The longer we read this, the less I'm able to talk.
That's always the case.
That is always the case.
You're kind of like on a parabolum where you like can't talk because you're not warmed up, and then you get warmed up very briefly, and then it goes right back down.
And it goes lower. It goes lower.
It goes lower.
It goes lower.
She's turning Russian now.
Russian. Anyway. Oh no, my phone went dark. A buddy of mine...
I'm tired of this bullshit.
I'm tired of being awake.
My anarchy symbol.
A buddy of mine in the Cambridge circles over in England, found his name in the 1847 rolls of a London Framers Guild, the Honourable Print Sellers Association. Bam! Made it through that paragraph.
Part of the Framers Guild of Norway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trail gets cold there. Only picks up again here in New Haven. From what the DCC boys can gather in local archives, this is my Connecticut accent.
That's Connecticut?
Yeah, everyone from Connecticut talks like this. I have no idea why I've decided that this is the voice I'm going with.
Oh, okay. All right there, buddy. Do you need some kombucha?
I need some kombucha.
Have some baby booch.
From what the DCC boys can gather in the local archives, he was fairly quiet about his work, advertised to the wealthy, known for specializing decorations. Don't know if that was a euphemism for aberrational abilities of his frames. Worked here all his life. Died in 1887.
Next mention of this special frames is a Smithsonian expedition to the Arctic Circle in 1903. Archivists had scrubbed specifics on whatever aberration they had been hunting, but overlooked the equipment list. Massive amounts of nitroglycerin, a Gatling gun, a Zelensky gun, equipped stream launch, and a viewing frame with a special artist were a giveaway. Since then, these frames have been used by exotic hunters. We can track a few frames fall into the hands of warders over the years, and we assume most have eventually circulated into the society by now.
Okay, so the society is like, just through like knowledge of what these things are, have like know what to look for, right, and like how to find these frames.
They know the key phrases, like recruiters for jobs.
They know the key kitsch objects that he pasted on there.
Right.
Now, how he made these things, whether the abilities were a deliberate work, if there are frames back in Europe from other craftsmen, nobody knows. We're not a bunch of white coats with a lab and poking at frames or worse, to see what makes it tick. Also, just might break it. So that's kind of like a jab at like, hey, we are not the SCP Foundation. Like, we don't have everything figured out. We're a ragtag group of people out there on the field laying our lives down, like, you know what I mean?
Right. They are Pacific Heat.
What are we? Some kind of wayward society? Situations as they are, we're not taking any chances. If you got any more questions, contact us through your local DCC, the DCC New Haven team. Side note, it's also traditional for society painters to make a pilgrimage to Halverson's gravesite. I've done it. Really? Like making a...
You gotta go and like...
all to like Norway?
Yeah. I don't know. He stayed in Connecticut though, right?
Yeah, he's a Connecticut-based guy, but he's like...
Or did he like go back to Norway? Did they take his body back to Norway when he died? Or is his body in New Haven?
I think his body is in Norway. I think he lived in Norway. The frames just made their way to America. I don't know. Regardless of the situation, I will say...
He's an immigrant from Norway.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I guess, okay. It is important to note that these are Americans. This is the Wayward Society of America. And they are... there are groups in other countries, allegedly, possibly, but they don't keep in contact with them because the Wayward Society only deals with, like, American-centric things.
Okay. Location and population. We have no idea on how many of the frames that are out there. No evidence on how long it took this one guy to make one, nor how long he actually was active in his craft. Personally, I know of a dozen or so frames circulating around the Society, seen 3 with my own eyes. Ownership of these things isn't codified or regulated. A few outfits, big and small, have one in their arsenals. Others are passed around regions to where they're needed. Obviously, New England has a few. I'm pretty sure a few fancy borders have a frame passed down in their family's tradition. But a frame isn't something you need to go bragging about. Great Circles own at least one available for emergencies.
So Great Circle, the thing that's in charge of all of the Wayward Society outfits, that it's very secretive. They know that they have at least one, but we don't know.
They might have like 2.
They might have, yeah.
Yeah.
They have a Mirror of Forlorn Hope. That's a weird pull.
Maybe.
That's a weird pull, Brandon.
I like that, though.
No,
big fan.
Like, the I think it's Johto Society from the RPC Authority probably has one, because they're from Japan.
Okay.
They would have a Forlorn Hope. We wouldn't.
No. Although, who knows? We could have, like, a knockoff Forlorn Hope.
Yes.
Where you trade, like, only a portion of your soul for, like, something you only mildly desire.
The government, it says that the government probably has 1 or 100. The government does, like, they call them the Bureau, but there is, like, some sort of organization from the government, but it's not as, like, effective as the on-the-ground troops of the independent Wayward Society of America.
Right.
Hunting and procurement methods. These are pretty nice pieces of art in themselves, the frames. Normans like how they look, so they keep an eye out in antique shops and auctions and the like. I know some of you guys have a hobby with bits of Americana, so look for the EH initials and generally outstanding craftsmanship. The frames have been flagged for acquisition by the Great Circle. You'll be fully reimbursed and extra, so buy them. And if you see one hanging on a wall in some estate, pretend the art is wonderful and exquisite and get it. That's great.
That's great.
Art for some of you is the guts of an AR. Pretend it's but pretend for the AI, for the society's sake. There we go. I like the guts of an AR?
I don't know.
I don't know what that stands for. Stands for assault rifle. Got a band. Stands for, I don't know what that would stand for.
And if they insist on keeping the frame, they're probably not a Norman.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. You know what the word Norman means?
Is it like normal? Is it like muggles?
Yeah, it's muggles. That's the word muggles.
Okay. Encounter logs. If you've got stories, contact the Seattle DCC and I'll add them to the archive. No actual videos, though. A lot of warders are barely getting these pages on their phones in the field.
That's one thing that I really like about these. Like, you have to read a certain amount of, like, SCP and RPC stuff to get an idea. Like, these things, their context clues work immediately. It's like, what's a warder? Someone who hunts aberrations. What's an aberration? A monster, like a supernatural thing.
Right.
What's a Norman? Like, it has normal right there. They're very clear about these things.
Right.
I say that right as I don't know what they mean by AR.
Right.
It's in the guts of an AR. I don't understand. Okay. Maybe that's like an abbreviation for aberration?
Art, for some of you, is in the guts of an AR.
Anyway.
I mean, I'm getting that it's like, hey, you don't like the art.
You don't
care about art. Like, I understand what it's, like, meaning, but I don't
know its meaning.
Yeah.
I know what it means, but I don't know what it means.
It's like hearing weird old phrases that have, like, expired.
Duty McCall.
Duty McCall.
Additional notes. A few extra notes from my personal experiences. Bullet point. These frames can sometimes work for indoor monitoring. It might be easier to couple the painting to reality without the wind messing with things. But if a spooky aberrant can watch you paint in the hallway for an hour, they might work around it. Bullet point 2, if you're using frames as an irsat cell camera for an aberrate, make sure the painting is just blank. Isn't blank gray walls with 3 shades of gray. Like Urzat cell, I guess, is just like a containment chamber for them. But put an object in there so whatever you're keeping locked up will render clearly.
That makes sense.
And lastly, I haven't said this, but it's worth mentioning, any kind of painting will do. Example photo is watercolor. Nickname is acrylic. Oils work too. Sketches won't work though.
Oh, pooey.
If you've got more to add, again, contact the Seattle DCC. Written by Warder Gearson. Alright, this was edited 1 day ago, and I could tell because when I initially... I pulled these things up like a day ago, and it got way longer all of a sudden.
Right. Is this one of the ones we were going to read at the farmer's market?
Yeah, we were going to read this one earlier, and then...
And then I got beat.
So I enjoyed that one.
That was nice. I liked it.
I didn't read the previous version. I do have it archived. But I heard winds of like that one being a less quality story. I disagree. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, they did edit it, though, so they might have made it better.
Even, like, the crux of the idea is, like, such a good idea.
It's a good idea, though.
It's simple but inevitable. Like, it's a very predictable idea, but it's very unique, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Do we have anything to add?
Good story.
Good story. Go check out the Wayward Society of America Wikia. Link to this article down in the description. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm turning this thing on.